Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Angry Jay here, back with another NHL 94 team breakdown as I continue my tour through the Patrick division. I now am jumping into the non-playoff teams from this division, with the 5th place Philadelphia Flyers. This is a time in the Flyers history where they were kind of in transition. They had 5 seasons. This would be the 4th season, the 1992-93 season, where they didn't make the playoffs. But this is kind of where they start to turn the corner here, where they have some young talent coming in. They get Eric Lindros in a trade. They get Mark Recchi. Brenda Moore's coming along, and they're starting to build up their depth, which will eventually lead to some very dominant seasons in the upcoming years. Although none of them turned into Stanley Cup winning years, they turned into a much more competitive team and were generally considered a powerhouse. But in 1992-93, they weren't quite there yet, as they finished a competitive 36, 37, and 11 for 83 points. They finished 4 points outside of 4th place. The New Jersey Devils had 87 points this year, and they were the ones to qualify for the playoffs, leaving Philadelphia on the outside looking in. In terms of 94, they have a high home ice advantage, so they're going to get a lot of bonuses when you take them at home. But you got to be careful with them on the road because they have a high disadvantage. They're going to deal with a lot of penalties if you take them up against, a team with a high home ice advantage. Philadelphia could be really problematic on the road because of their high disadvantage that they will have to deal with. Philadelphia is generally considered a Tier 4 team. This is, the similar story to many of the other Patrick Division teams. They had a very competitive division that year, but in 94 cents, they're more lower tier team, Tier 4, Tier 5, generally speaking. Some of their better matchups would be against Edmonton and Washington, and you can stretch them out against some of the slower Tier 3 teams like Toronto and Quebec, and they should be just fine in those matchups. Strengths for Philadelphia, reasons why you would want to pick them is because they have 3 forwards who are all elite skaters, whether they have 5 agility or 5 speed. Philadelphia is actually a really good skating team, especially this low in the tier list. So you want to take advantage of that when you get the chance. They have several players who have elite skills somewhere. So whether it be agility, speed, shot accuracy, these 3 attributes, they have several players who have a 5 or 6 rating. And if you're not familiar with the rating system, I've listed the rating system down in the description of the video. This will hopefully help you guide your way through these videos a little bit more easily if you're unfamiliar with the rating system that I'm using, because 94, the ratings fluctuate every game. The player has a range that they can be in for their attribute, so those attribute ranges are described in the description. Also, another reason why you want to pick Philadelphia is they have a great manual goalie. Tommy Soderstrom is a fantastic manual goalie, and you'll see why that is shortly. As I already mentioned, Philadelphia is very good at home. They have a high home ice advantage, and another reason why you want to pick Philly, they have the ability to match up at the forward position. Their defense doesn't have a lot of depth, so you can't really switch them around to try and get a weight bug advantage or a CB checking advantage on your opponent. That is solely the responsibility of your forwards, and thankfully they are pretty capable at doing that. Some reasons why you might want to try and avoid Philadelphia. Their defensemen are pretty weak, and there isn't much depth here to change that. So who your starters are, Yuskevich, and you'll bring in Hoggett off the bench. You don't really have anything else behind that, unfortunately. Already mentioned this as well. Philadelphia on the road, just be careful with them. They can be pretty bad. Just try and mitigate those situations where you might get run out of the building if you can by just playing a slower brand of hockey. Once you dip into Philadelphia's bench, even among their forwards, where that is their strength, the forward position, they tend to run out of fast players very quickly. And what I mean by fast is anybody with a 4 speed rating or above. Once you dip into that bench, you're talking about a lot of 3 speed guys, and that can be problematic for some people. They also lack standouts in certain other areas. I mean, they do have elite players when it comes to shot accuracy, agility, and speed, but when it comes to shot power, passing, stick handling, they're not elite. They're just good at best. So when you try and take them up the ladder, there are some things that Philadelphia is just not really going to be able to do very well out there because of that. And lastly, one other weakness, the forwards have to win the game for you. If they get kicked around and they're just getting their butts whipped everywhere, pretty likely you're going to get your butt whipped with Philadelphia because they're the difference makers. I mean, you have a good goalie in Soderstrom, but the defense is really pedestrian, and if those forwards just don't take over, it could be real problematic. So let's go ahead and look into these line combinations now. Let's first look at the forwards. You'll want to bring in Eklund for Brind'Amour. Put Brind'Amour on the bench. You could put Recchi over into the middle, and you'll want to move Lindros out actually for Kevin Dineen. This is generally the most widely accepted line. It's can be a little weird to take out Brind'Amour and Lindros, but I'm going to show you why that might be the case for the majority of players. So first, Pelle Eklund. He is a great skater. He's one of those elite skaters that I mentioned because he has 5 agility to go along with 4 speed, so he's going to be fantastic to use on defense as well as offense, just because he's going to have a really quick first step and he's going to have an easy time shadowing opponent players and just manning up on defense. He has 4 offensive awareness with 3 defensive awareness, pretty standard for a forward. His shot is his only real weakness with a 3 power and 3 accuracy, so you got to get in close with him, but thankfully he's pretty agile, so he might get in close to deke the goalie, and his shot ratings are just good enough to do that on a consistent basis. But where you really want to take advantage of him on offense is his passing, which is a 4, and his stick handling, which is a 4. So he's going to be just fine out on the wing, dipsy doodling, creating space, just dangling out there to find one-timer opportunities for his teammates, namely Mark Recchi, who is a very good one-time player in his own right. So Pelle Eklund can be a powerful part of a 1-2 combination for the Philadelphia Flyers. And also on defense, Eklund at 180 pounds is a very good weight bug checking option. He can take down a lot of players in the matchups that I listed with Edmonton, Washington, Toronto, Quebec. He can really lay the body, so you want to use Eklund on the forecheck if the opportunity presents itself, because then you can get some easy scoring chances. But also on defense, he's going to be your best defender because he is your best checker. So if you can, do your best to man Pelle Eklund on the defensive side of the ice. But your main superstar player is Mark Recchi. He has 5 agility, 4 speed, very similar to Pelle Eklund, but Mark Recchi is a little bit heavier, so he's not going to be quite as good of a skater, but you're going to hardly notice the difference between the two. The nice thing about Recchi is he's going to really fill out that slot for you and look for those one-timers because he has that 5 offensive awareness. And at 3 defensive awareness, he'll be just fine on defense, knowing where to go around and just play good defensive hockey. He's got 4 shot power, 5 shot accuracy. So these are really good ratings for a forward. He's going to be really nice in the middle. One timing, he's going to be great. He might not get as many goals as say Tomas Sandstrom, who has a little bit more powerful shot, but I mean these are really nice ratings that are comparable to a lot of other forwards. 4 passing, 4 stick handling. Also very nice, but not overwhelming. So you might have some trouble with Recchi in the center against some tougher defenses. He might get cut down, or the puck might bounce off his stick because his stick handling isn't quite up to snuff compared to some other players. But I mean, these are just fine for the most part. At 188 pounds, he's a weight bug player, but not quite as much as Pelle Eklund. So you can definitely use Recchi on the forecheck and also on defense, but he's not going to be quite as dominant. And plus, you'll be focusing more on offense with him. You'll probably be handling the puck with him a lot more than your other players. So if you do lose the puck, he's likely to be already out of the play. So that's where it's just going to be more important to take Eklund into user control when possible. Lastly, you have your grinder here on the right wing, Kevin Dineen. He has 4 agility, 5 speed, so he might be a little tough to use in close due to the lack of agility. In close, I mean in tight for dekes, and also for some really agile players that he might have to play defense against. He might struggle a little bit against that, but that top end speed, if he gets going, it adds a new element to Philadelphia's offense as well as their defense, because he can come back and cut down some plays that no one else can chase down. So he is definitely a grinder. 3 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness. His shot is his weakness. He's only got 2 power, 3 accuracy. So if he gets a chance from in close, he'll be okay probably. But anything beyond the face-off dots, you're asking way too much of him. He's only got 3 passing, 3 stick handling, so he's not the best setup man on the wing either. You really want Eklund to be doing that for the most part, but Dineen's 5 speed might be able to get himself an angle that Eklund might not be able to open up a passing lane And then Dineen, he's a fine passer, good enough, to where if, he has a wide open angle to pass the puck, he's going to find the open man more often than not. He's a little bit heavier than the rest of your guys, 196 pounds, so he's kind of a middleweight. You just have to know who you're matching up against, whether you can weight bug check them. He's not much of a CB checker at 2 checking, so you really just want to kind of use him to hound people, just break up passes and use the poke check when possible. You don't really want to go crazy with Kevin Dineen, but he is a fine player and a great element to have on the wing with his speed. But you may want the most skilled line out there. You may not want this defensive, mobile forward unit. You might want something with a bit more skill to it, especially in the shooting department. So one guy you'll probably want to take out in that case is Kevin Dineen. You'll want to bring in Lindros off the bench, and you can either keep Lindros on the wing or you can put him in the middle and switch up Recchi back over to the right, which is a very viable lineup because Recchi is a great wing in his own right, so he will have no issues over there. And this actually opens up his slap shot option if it does present itself. But looking at Lindros now, he is a 4 agility, 3 speed skater, so he's a little slow, especially for a center. It can be tough to get him going, in terms of trying to slash through other teams' defenses. If you like to use one-timers on offense, this is okay. If you like to just slice and dice and expose your opponents, one-on-one or one-on-two, Lindros is not the guy for you, so you may want to put him out on the wing. Lindros not as adept at filling out the slot as Recchi, only 4 awareness on offense, 4 defensive awareness, but where he does do well is his shooting department, 4 power, 6 accuracy, same ratings as Mary Lemieux, so he will definitely be sniping home a lot of chances. 4 passer, 4 stick handling. This was only Lindros' rookie year, so he wasn't quite the elite player that he became later on, but these are still some really strong ratings. The most controversial thing about Lindros' effectiveness as a player is his weight. 236 pounds means pretty much everybody in the game can weight bug check him because he's just so much heavier than everybody else. So it's going to be tough to carry the puck up the ice with him because it's just easier to play defense on him because he's not very fast and he's just he's easy to bring down. But 236 pounds, 5 checking, 4 agility means he can be a very dominant CB checker in the right player's hands. So if you love to CB check and you're perfectly okay with these big guys, this is a really good player to use for that. CB checking is when a heavier player is able to reverse the weight bug in the Genesis version of the game and check a lighter weight player. I do have a video on that if you're unclear on what the CB check is, so feel free to check that video out. But Lindros is one of the premier CB checking forwards in the game, so if you can take advantage of that, you not only have a fantastic offensive weapon, but you also have a absolute defensive force out there, provided you can keep him in the play. Personally, I'm not a big Lindros advocate. I don't really like him, even though I love to use one-timers. I tend to prefer Rod Brind'Amour. He has 4 agility, 3 speed, so same ratings as Lindros, but because he's so much lighter than Lindros, he's going to be a better skater. He has 4 offensive awareness, 4 defensive, same ratings, but the shot is a little bit less. He has 4 power and only 4 accuracy. The 4 accuracy is okay for the most part, but it's definitely a step down from Lindros and even less than Recchi's 5 accuracy, so you have to be okay with giving up a little bit of accuracy to put Brind'Amour in the middle. 4 pass accuracy, 4 stick handling. He's just like everybody else pretty much on this roster. And at 212 pounds, he's a little bit more user-friendly version. If you want to get the CB checking going, Brind'Amour, 3 checker, 212 pounds. He's going to be just fine as a CB checker if you choose to employ him as such. And he's a little bit better skater. As long as you're willing to give up a little bit of shot accuracy, I think Brind'Amour is the better play overall. Lindros is a little bit of overkill, I think, but if you can get everything out of Lindros that you would have out of Brind'Amour checking wise, then you're probably only going to do better on offense with Lindros' shot accuracy. Essentially, these are really the only 5 guys you want to be using on this lineup. Just a couple other guys to keep in mind if you really don't like heavier players, because some guys, they just refuse to use people like Lindros and Brind'Amour. Some subs you could bring off the bench. Andre Lomakin, he's got 4 agility and 4 passing. He's a middleweight. Everything else is a 3. He's perfectly fine out on the wing, just very unspectacular. And lastly, Keith Acton. He has no real skills whatsoever, but he's 172 pounds, which means he's a true weight bug force. But at 2 speed, 2 agility, he's going to have a real issue keeping up with not only the other team, but his own team in a lot of cases. So he's nothing more than a bit player if you run into injuries or penalties. So that's really the exciting part about Philadelphia's players. The defense is less exciting, but they do okay provided you don't test their depth. Dmitry Yushkevich is your number one defenseman. He's a pretty standard defenseman. He has 4 agility, which is a nice little boost, and 3 speed, so he's going to be pretty decent moving around, but he's not going to be fast by any means. He's got 3 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness, very standard. 3 shot power, 1 accuracy. You're not really going to want to get that involved in the offense too much because it's not really worthwhile. His passing at 3 is fine. His stick handling at 3 is fine. I mean, 196 pounds. He's a middleweight, 2 checking. You're not really going to be able to see much of anybody with him. He's not much of a weight bug checker unless you know you're going up against a heavier forward like Mike Ridley from Washington. That's really the only forward you're going to have a legitimate shot at weight bug checking. So Yushkevich, just keep him back on defense. Use the poke check. Use your forward agility to keep up with those quicker forwards. He can do that with that forward agility. So that's really all you want to do with Yushkevich. He's nothing special. And his counterpart, Greg Hoggood, similar story, very similarly rated player. 4 agility, 3 speed. He's a left-hander, but he's a little bit better on offense, so I tend to be more okay with putting him on his offside. 3 offensive awareness, 3 defensive awareness, 3 shot power, 1 accuracy, or 2 accuracy. That's the improvement in offense for Hoggood over Yushkevich. 3 passing, 3 stick handling, 196 weight, 2 checking, same player, same philosophy. Just chill in the back line, use your poke check, be smart. Don't get over aggressive with these guys because there's no real reason to. They can't change the game with their ability. So as long as they don't lose it for you, that's really all you can ask of the Philadelphia defense is just don't get run out of the building. And that's really the only 2 guys you want to be using. There's a couple other guys you can look at. I mean, you're obviously going to run into some penalty problems, so you have to go beyond the first 2 guys. First guy off the bench would probably be Gord Hines. Very poorly skilled player. 2 agility, 2 speed, 2 offensive awareness, 2 defensive, 1 shot power, 2 accuracy, 2 passing, 2 stick handling. The only good thing about what he can do for you is his weight bug checking. 172 pounds. It's not as big of a deal if he's only a 2 speed skater. Keith Acton, he's a forward. It's very tough for a 2 speed forward to be an effective checker. A defenseman can get away with it a little bit more, and he allows you to bring in a true weight bug option, but he's just doesn't bring a lot to the table other than that. So if he's not hitting people, he's hurting your defense just by process of elimination, because he just can't do anything else. If you eliminate the one thing he does, he's not helping you. A more balanced option, Gary Galley. He really got shorted on his ratings. He had a very nice career when it was also, he's Philadelphia's leading scorer for defensemen in the 1992-93 season. He only got a 2 agility and a 2 speed, so he really got gypped on those ratings, and that really crushes his value as a player overall, because the rest of him is very unspectacular. 3 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness, just a 2 shot power, 2 accuracy, 3 passing, 3 stick handling, middleweight, 196 pounds, 3 checker. There's nothing special about him. There's nothing that stands out. That Yushkevich and Hoggood are clearly better options, and the lack of speed and agility is just an absolute, destroyer of Gary Galley's value. But he's probably your best bench option when it comes to a balanced player. Everybody else behind that, they are inferior options, unfortunately. Philadelphia's goalie, it does bring some hope to their defensive situation. Tommy Soderstrom is a fantastic manual goalie with 4 agility, 4 puck control. He's got a stick right rating of 3, stick left of 4, glove right, of 3, and a glove left of 4. So his save ratings, are 3s and 4s. It's a little low, but with 4 agility, 4 rebound control, and 164 pounds. I'm sure if you've watched enough of these videos, you've heard me say, a guy is a good manual goalie or a good bad manual goalie, and you may be asking yourself, why do you say that, Angry Jay? Why are they, good or bad? Well, things that make a good manual goalie are low weight, high agility. Those are really the 2 key factors, because lower weight means you move faster, you start faster, you stop faster, you're able to just be more agile, and you turn better. So these, being a lighter player with, overall allows you to do these things more effectively than a heavier player because they are slower in all those regards. Also, high agility just, increases the fact that, or just adds on to the fact that, you have a light player, but also have a high agility rating. So they're just going to move even faster than, a heavier goalie with the same agility rating. So Soderstrom, very low weight, good agility, fantastic manual goalie because of those two things. And he's also a good, computer goalie, because he's got good rebound control. His save ratings are decent, and I think he's going to be a very key part to this Philadelphia defense. So before I jump into this game here with Toronto, let me just review Philadelphia very quickly. With Philadelphia, you want to use your forwards to cause all sorts of havoc on offense. You want to be in the offensive zone as much as possible with Philadelphia because, if you're using the best part of your team the most often in the most dangerous part of the ice, you're going to be successful. So use them on the forecheck. Just try and get some puck possession when you can and attack from all angles because Philadelphia is a very skilled team. They can score from a lot of different places within the offensive zone. Also, just, forecheck and backcheck with your forwards. You just want to use them and user control as much as possible because those are your best players. That's where you're going to make the biggest difference. So even when you lose the puck and you have to come back into your own zone, don't just automatically switch over to a defender right away because, I'm on defense, I need a defender. No. Use Pelle Eklund, use Kevin Dineen on defense. Get them into the play. They're still going to help you out a lot. Also, you want to just protect your defense overall, and not just with your forwards, but also, with the defensemen. You don't want to just run them around in the defensive zone trying to lay the body to everybody. They're not, there to do that. They're not very physical players, Yuskevich and Hoggett. They're more just positionally sound. Keep them in the way. Just pester the other team with them. So just protect yourself, protect the slot, and play good D. One great thing about Philadelphia, though, if their D does get beat, is you have a fantastic manual goalie. So if you love, manual goalie control, Philadelphia's a really good team to use because Soderstrom's just a premium option in that regard. Also, lastly, just be cognizant of your home and road splits with Philadelphia. You would want to try and avoid taking them to, a team that has a high home ice advantage. Like, don't go crazy and say, Philadelphia, Chicago, or Philadelphia, Montreal, because those teams have high home ice advantages. It's going to be problematic there because Philadelphia has a high road disadvantage. There's just compounding problems there. So, just be aware of that. And if you get Philadelphia at home, try and pick a team pick Philadelphia against a team that has a high road disadvantage because, then you're going to get some huge bonuses. You're going to be in a much better shape than your opponent ratings-wise. So that's a place where you can take advantage of Philadelphia's home road splits. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this matchup here with Toronto. I think Philadelphia as a Tier 4 team is a pretty exciting Tier 4 team. I mean, they do have their clear limitations. Their defense can be very problematic. They're not very good on offense. They're just not big difference makers on defense. But within this Tier 4, a team with, just really strong forwards like Philadelphia's, they can still be a very viable team. They can be a scary team. They're so scary, in fact, I don't think Pittsburgh, a fellow Tier 4 team, is a good matchup for Philadelphia. I would not call Pittsburgh Philadelphia if I could help it. I think Philadelphia is just too fast or too skilled. They can easily keep Pittsburgh's offense away from their net, even with their lackluster defensemen, because Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, they're so heavy, and Joe Mullen is not fast enough to really stretch out Philadelphia's defense. And then the forwards, they just can come back and pester Pittsburgh on the back check all game long. I don't think that's a good matchup for Pittsburgh in Tier 4, even though Pittsburgh, is a very skilled team. They're a great CB checking team. I think for the majority of players, that you might find in a tournament or an online play, not everybody uses a CB check. So this is a matchup you want to be really careful about. If you don't know how to CB check or you don't like to CB check, is this Philadelphia-Pittsburgh matchup. I mean, it seems like a natural matchup. It's a rivalry, cross-state, but I would definitely shy away from it if possible. I think Philadelphia does really well against upper echelon teams that don't have any elite skaters. You can take them up against Toronto. You can take them up against Quebec just fine. neither one of those teams has an elite skater. So, Philadelphia just has a big advantage there because they can ice 3 different guys with either 5 agility or 5 speed. And that can be a huge deal over the course of a game where you may not have the most skilled team, because Quebec, I think, is more skilled overall than Philadelphia. But, it's kind of like the new age NHL. If you just skate around the other team and you control the play so much and you keep the play in the offensive zone and just create chances left and right, eventually, you're going to score because you created so many chances. It's just bound to happen, especially in a game like this where offenses really can get rolling. If it was a more defensive type of game, I may not lean towards Philadelphia as much, but 94 can turn into some pretty exciting hockey, very fire wagon-esque. So I think they do well in those matches where there's a little bit more offense out there to be had, and there's room to skate, and a team may not be as good on defense like Quebec and Toronto. They're okay on defense, they're decent, but they're just a very average team. They're straight across the board. They're just a sound team, carried by one elite player, Doug Gilmour. So I think Philadelphia is a very worthwhile team to invest some time in. They are a somewhat popular pick, although not overwhelmingly so. They're not Montreal or Chicago or Detroit type popular, but they're definitely more popular than, say, Washington or New Jersey. So this is, I think, a team you can expect to see in a tournament, especially if you go for a long time in the tournament, when you make it to the elimination bracket, the double elimination, and maybe you win a few games there. You're definitely going to see Philadelphia at some point, and you definitely want to know who their subs are, because not everybody loves Eric Lindros. He's a very divisive player. In '94, he's very much so like Cam Neely in Boston, or I can't think of another one right off the top of my head, but there are a few guys who are very heavy forwards, very skilled. Tomas Sandstrom in LA is also another example of this, where LA has so much depth. They have better options on the bench, not better, but comparable options on the bench, that you don't have to put a heavier guy like Sandstrom out there and still be successful as a team. So you definitely want to know guys like Kevin Dineen. You want to know Pelle Eklund. With those guys, you're going to want to change up your game plan a little bit, because you're not going to be able to just blast slap shots like you would with Brind'Amour and Lindros. They need to get in close a little bit more. They need to be a little bit more finesse about what they do. So you might want to change your offensive game plan in that case. You might want to just forecheck a bit more, or hold on to the puck a little bit longer, trying to get that more premium type chance than just throwing a puck at net, hoping it'll go in. Because while Mark Recchi can do slap shots like that from pretty far out, Kevin Dineen's not. He's only got 2 shot power. So you want to get in close with Kevin Dineen if you're going to shoot with him, or just hold the puck and look for the passing lane to a more open player, or a player who just is in a better spot overall to score. So it's just knowing your personnel, depending on which lineup you go with, and adjusting your game plan accordingly. Because I think Philadelphia, I don't know if they're necessarily underrated, because people are definitely aware of how good of a skating team they are. But they can be kind of scary out there, especially, like I said, if you just keep play away from their defense, which can be very, pedestrian, and just establish a really good tempo. And Philadelphia is pretty scary among the lower end teams, because they're also kind of tough to match up with. Like Pittsburgh, I felt like Pittsburgh was tough to match up with, because they're so much more skilled than the rest of their tier. But if you give them to the average player who doesn't really know about CB checking, they got issues. They got serious issues, and if you don't know how to deal with them, you may as well almost pick a tier 5, tier 6 team, because it's just not going to be a very fun game for you. Then the same can happen with Philadelphia. If you just go with their default lineup, Brind'Amour, Lindros, and you treat them like they're the Vancouver Canucks, and you can just skate everywhere and kind of do what you want, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So just the best thing you can do in a tournament or an online league play is identify what you're good at, and then tailor your team around that. And thankfully, Philadelphia has some options that allows you to do that. And I'm trying to use Lindros here, and you can see that 6-shot accuracy with the 4 power. Even from some pretty acute angles, he can beat a very good goalie in Felix Potvin. So this is kind of the thing I was talking about with Lindros is, you know, he's slow, he's lumbering, he's going to be just a target out there for people to hit. But if he can get the puck off his stick going towards the net, he's going to score his fair share of goals, because he's got that rare 6 accuracy, you know, with good shot power. So he's going to be able to make some pretty good shots that you know a lot of other players in the game will not. But you won't see much of a difference between he and Recchi, because Recchi's shot is almost identical. It's just a little less accurate. But I hardly notice a difference between 5 and 6 accuracy. If I were to say, you know, which attribute is the least important for a player, I would probably say shot accuracy is down there, especially if, you know, a player's not playing center. If the player's on the wing, you know, I can almost get over low shot accuracy if everything else about them is really nice. Like, you know, Dale Howardchuk, for instance, he has 1 shot accuracy, but I think he's a great player because every other attribute that he has is either good or elite, and I can forgive him for not being an accurate shooter because of all those other things that he brings to the table. So don't sell out your team just to get a little extra accuracy. Other players on this team like Kevin Dineen have some really useful skills, like his speed is just a game changer, especially if he's hot, which is very possible at home because Philly has good home ice advantage. So, you know, that's why I like Philly, because you can make decisions based on your matchup. You can make decisions based on how you're feeling that day. You know, if you're doing really great with one-time plays, maybe bring in Brendan Moore or Lindros. If you're doing great, you know, slicing defenses up, maybe you bring in Eklund and Recchi and just let them go to town on people, because they're just so much more agile, and they can get in those really dangerous scoring areas. And looks like we're just about wrapped up here. We got some garbage time penalty here by Dave Andrechuk. See if I can get a goal here. There's enough time to get a goal. Not if I lose a face-off. So that's Philadelphia, really. Looks like Lindros had a pretty nice game. The forwards won the day here, but going against the computer wasn't the most difficult thing to have happen. But I think that is really the recipe for success, is just to dominate with your forwards and then let your defense pick up whatever's left over. So that's the Flyers. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something from it and can use them more effectively in online play or tournament play moving into the future. Next up, I'm going to have the New York Rangers. That is the final team from the Patrick Division that played in the 92-93 season. There's still obviously the Florida Panthers left in this Eastern Conference after that. So if you like this video, go ahead and feel free to give a comment or just give a thumbs up saying, hey, you liked it. You know, if you want to subscribe and see more of these, feel free to do that as well. If you also didn't like it, you know, mention that what you didn't like, and I'll try and get better. I'm still learning at this, so any feedback is definitely appreciated. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.